Welcome to Clone Skills. Today we are going to review our driver-based planning, forecasting, and budgeting solution for retail and CPG industries. This particular solution has been developed on BPC NetWeaver 10.0. Our BPC NetWeaver 10.0 solution runs on top of SAP HANA, and this solution is readily deployable. The purpose of this demonstration is to provide enough functional technical details someone to understand to implement BPC on HANA. And also users will learn how the out-of-the-box functions reduce BPC on HANA implementation time, cost, and risk. And users will learn many of these planning functions, forecasting functions, simulations, and scenario analysis and business insights. Overall, our solution scope includes revenue planning, cost planning, P&L planning, cash flow planning, C-level planning, rolling forecast, and cost allocation. So this is the overall solution scope, which we are going to take a look in the live system. This is our process flow. Our process starts from collecting the actuals. Once we collect the actuals, if the actuals are collected in local currency, we transform that local currency data into reporting currency. Then we perform data quality check. In the data quality check, we perform balance sheet validation, file balance validation. If the balance sheet is imbalanced, then we move on to creating planning scenarios. If the balance sheet is not in balance, we use journals to manual posting to fix the out of balance issue. Once that is fixed, then we create a planning scenario. Once after creating a planning scenario, we perform various planning exercises. So this includes creating various planning scenarios and saving those planning data. Once we save the planning data, then we have a review and approval process. We look at the plan and approve it, or it asks for more rework. Once the plan is approved, it goes for variance analysis. If the plan is not approved, it goes for rework. So this is our overall planning process. So now we are talking about the HANA out-of-the-box function. SAP HANA has many different functions to offer for planning and forecasting and analytics than the traditional BPC. In the traditional BPC, we don't have all these functions, but in SAP HANA, we have many of these functions. So the main objective here, we wanted to educate the user and tell the user what are the different SAP BPC functions can be enabled on HANA. So we are using many different functions. Here is a few. We use SLT for real-time data acquisition, and we use data services to bring non-SAP data, which were much more optimized way than using SAP BPC Data Manager. And we also use SAP HANA data model for deeper insights and actionable analytics. And we use SAP HANA hierarchy. We use SAP HANA in-memory calculation. We use SAP HANA decision tables for scenario analysis. So these are the main core out-of-the-box SAP HANA functions we are using to implement BPC. So this is our BPC 10.0 functions, out-of-the-box functions we are using. So we are using controls, we are using journals, we are using currency translation, work status, planning functions such as trend, spread, and weighted average. So these are all BPC out-of-the-box functions that we are using to implement the solution. And what functions has been already pre-configured? Data management functions are fully pre-configured. Data quality check has been pre-configured. Currency translation has been pre-configured. Scenario baseline has been pre-configured. So all these functions, rolling forecast, SKU-level planning, cost allocation, scenario analysis, variance analysis, simulation, operational and management reporting, all these functions are pre-configured. Users are expected to use these functions from day one of this particular solution implementation. This is our solution architecture. It is not a mandatory architecture, it's a flexible architecture. What does this mean? So it is very flexible. User can implement as needed. User can change this architecture as needed. So if you look at the architecture, we collect actuals from various different sources. If the actuals are coming from ECC, we collect that actuals into HANA using SLT in the real time. If the actuals are coming from non-SAP sources, we use data services to pull them into HANA. If the client is already have another planning tool such as Hyperion, how do we get those data into HANA? We are getting this one. If the client is already using BW, how do we leverage BW? If the client already have business objects, how do we leverage business objects? And it's not just only building, planning, and forecasting. How could I build much more advanced analytics, predictive analytics, management reporting, dashboards? For that, we are using multi-source universe on top of this data sets. Overall, this is the architecture we are using to implement a solution. This is highly customizable, and it is not a mandatory component that you have to have all this architecture. It's very flexible. All right. Now we are going to focus on the live system demonstration. So what we are going to do right now, we are going to go to our cloud infrastructure. We use Amazon Web Services, and that's where we host all the solutions. That's where our physical infrastructure exists. So we are going to go to Amazon Web Services platform, and we are going to look at all the systems, and we're also going to look at the entire database planning solution step by step. So with that, I'm going to go to my cloud infrastructure. So this is my cloud infrastructure. I'm just going to go ahead and start from here. We have all the systems that have been used in the solution. We have SAP HANA, and we have SAP BPC, and we have SAP BW and ECC, and we have other tools which is part of the analytical solutions. We use Design Studio to build dashboards. We use data services to bring non-SAP data into HANA. We use information design tool, which is basically a universe which is built on top of BPC for advanced analytics and management reporting. And we use web intelligence for data analysis, operational reporting, management reporting, predictive analysis, which is primarily for scenario analysis, forecasting, all of those done. So the solution that what we are going to look at, it's built based on all the different tools. So this is not a traditional way of implementing BPC. This is something that pretty advanced. So now I'm going to go to my BPC system. This is my BPC NetWeaver 10.0 system. In the system, we have fully pre-configured workflow. This is the workflow what we have for our branch-based planning, forecasting, and budgeting. It starts from data collection. How do we collect the actuals? Then it goes for preparing the data. So here we are going to prepare various data sets. Once we prepare the data, then I'm going for scenario analysis. These are the different scenarios I'm going to plan for. Once I'm done the planning, then I'm going to go for cost allocation. Once I'm done the cost allocation, then I'm going to go for variance analysis. What I planned, what's an actual, and what's the variance. So overall, these are the steps we are going to perform step by step. Before I proceed further, what I really like to show, how we could use HANA to optimize the entire data management activity of BPC. So in a traditional BPC, either you could use data manager or you can use BW ETL process to bring data into BPC reporting or analysis. So now we are going to take a look at it. How could I use HANA-based functions to bring the data? So what I'm going to show you, how do I bring real-time data from HANA into BPC without any manual intervention. So let's take a look at it, then we will come back and discuss this step by step. So now we are going to review how do we bring real-time data from SAP HANA into SAP BPC. I'm going to launch my EPM add in Excel to see whether I can see the data in the reporting. So this is my EPM add in Excel. It's going to ask me to choose a model. I'm going to choose my rate model. This is my rate model. So once I choose the rate model, then I'm just going to go and look at the report. So I have an existing report. I'm going to see in the report, I'm able to see the data. So I'm just going to go to the server root folder. This is my server root folder. I'm going to the report, and this is the report. I'm opening the report. Now the report is here. Do a refresh to make sure there's no data here. If you see here, we don't have any data. I'm trying to delete. It should say no data to delete. So right now, I don't have any data here. Okay? So now I'm going to the backend HANA system. This is my HANA system. In the system, you can see a schema. It's called SAP H1N. This is a schema where all the HANA-related tables or model dimension has been stored. And these are the tables. You may see the namespace CPMP. So this is the namespace SAP uses for any HANA objects. So these are all the tables on the backend created for SAP BPC. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to manually run the process so that I can get to insert the records. So what I'm doing in the table, I have this many number of records is being populated on the backend. So now I'm going back to my report. This is my report. Just do a refresh. When you do refresh, you could see the data. So this data is still coming. It's never to see it. Okay. So when I do refresh, I can see the data in this process. So now let me go back and try to delete this one. I'm going to delete this record to make sure nothing is there. I'm saving this record, saved. So all of the records are saved. There's no data at this moment in the rate table. This is my rate model. There's no exchange rate at the moment. Everything has been deleted. So now I'm going back to HANA and do a manual data entry. I'm going to enter data manually. I'm going to change this one. So for example, I'm going to change the rate from, I'm just manually changing the rate values. Okay, once after change the values, I'm going to go ahead and populate the data. So I'm just going to save this one. And then I'm going to run the report and see what the report is doing. So I'm manually changing the data. Okay, once after changing the data, I want to see the same set of data in the front end and the BPC. So this data has been saved. Now I'm going to the report. This is the report. As of now, you don't see any data. All you have to do a refresh. When you do refresh, it should bring back all the records. So these are the rates you've manually adjusted or you manually changed. All right. So what we looked at how do we bring real-time data from SAP HANA into BPC reporting. We just wanted to show you these functions are very important for someone to understand in order to implement BPC on HANA. So now we are going to focus on the core functions of database planning, budgeting, and forecasting. The first step of this process is data collection. How do we collect actuals? As we told, we primarily use HANA. So this is to demonstrate the user. It's not that you have to only use HANA. You can still also use your data manager, which is the traditional SAP BPC. So we are going to show you the traditional SAP BPC data manager process. How do you collect the data? As far as HANA goes, it's a real time, which you already looked at. Correct? There's nothing we have to do. It's a one-time setup. It's one-time configuration. Once it's configured, the data will automatically come. There's no manual process involved. The steps, what you are going to look at right now, these are all manual steps for users to understand how do we use data manager package so that I can load the data. The first step is upload actuals. If your actuals sitting in outside in a file, how do we bring this Excel file into the BPC system? So this first step, it's going to let you bring, if you have a file which is sitting outside, you could bring this file. For example, this is a file, has all the actuals for the database planning, forecasting, and budgeting. I want to bring them into BPC. I brought them. I'm going to click on preview. Before I put it in my system, I want to see how the data looks. It's actual, it's a revenue, it has a cost, and everything is involved. And this is an entity, and this is basically all other dimension, and this is basically the signed data. So this is the data I want to bring and do an upload. When I do upload, it's going to ask where I want to put it. You can specify the location. So when you do save, if the file is already exists, it's going to ask you, do you want to replace an existing file? Yes, I want to replace an existing file. The file has been successfully brought in. So what I did, I completed bringing an external file into BPC so that I could use this actuals in my planning. I'm done with this. Since I'm part of the business process flow, I'm going to mark this as a complete. So what I have done, I completed the data actuals process, right? Bringing actuals into BPC. The next step, how do I take this actual into my model? The first step is bringing an external data into BPC. The second step, how do you bring into your planning model? So this is going to move the data into your planning model. So I'm just going to show you that step so that you understand. If I'm using HANA real-time data acquisition, this step is not required. So now it is asking me, show me the file you want to bring into the planning model. Click on browse. Now it's going to go back with the file what you brought in. So right now you're not seeing any file. Click here, change to all files. Now you could see the file. So this is the file we brought in from an external source into BPC. Now it's asking me to do a preview. Click on preview. When I go to delimited, I can see how the file has been brought in. It's a comma separated file, and these are the actuals which I brought in. Close. So now click next. So this time, since the file requires a transformation, it's going to ask you a transformation file. So this is my transformation file. You can select and click on. If you want to preview the transformation, you can click. If it's not, we can move on, click next. So in what mode I want to run? I want to run the overwrite mode. Do I want to pre-aggregate the data? Yes, I want to pre-aggregate the data. Do I need to run a default logic? No, I don't want to. Do I have to what status? No, I'm not interested. So now it is asking, do I want to run schedule, run and schedule? It's my call. I'm going to run right now. Click finish. So when I do this one, it's going to basically move the data from the file into the model. Now that has been done. How could I see the status? You can see the status from here. So this is basically allows you to look at the status. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to EPM. So then EPM actually plan. So now go to Data Manager. Under Data Manager, you could see view status. So here you could see the first step. This is the one data load, right? It's success. Click on detail, package log. You can see how many number of record is brought in. So this is the number of record it's brought in. So now I was able to complete this step. So now I'm just going to go ahead and complete this particular process. So I'm done with this process. Click complete. So what we have done, we completed these two steps. Okay. So we completed the first two steps. That's part of data collection. So now the second step is data preparation. So what is the first one? If the company is a global company and they wanted to perform currency translation, before you perform currency translation, if you wanted to adjust your rate, you can adjust your rate. So this is an input template where you can adjust your rate. I'm opening this input template and I could see all my exchange rate, and then if there is any adjustment that I have to make, I can make those adjustments. It's going to open an input template where you could perform an adjustment to an input template, like exchange rate. I'm just trying to bring the template more readable form. So this is the input template. I can see this one. Do a refresh to make sure you have the right data. So for example, if I want to change this exchange rate, I can change this exchange rate. If I wanted to delete something, I can delete something. Just to show you, okay, so these are the exchange rates we are using. So this is basically the rate type. It's an average rate. It's a historical rate. It's a reporting currency, this input currency. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one. Any change you make, you could save them. So now I save this one. So if you don't want to make an adjustment to an existing rate, you can leave the steps. You can mark them as complete. So I completed the step. So this is a step that basically what I did, I manually adjusted my exchange rate. The next step is I'm performing currency conversion. My actuals came in local currency. I want to perform this into a reporting currency. I want to convert this into a reporting currency. So that is a step I'm doing. I'm performing currency conversion, and I'm going to transform all this into USD. So this context is already been set. If you wanted to change the context, you can change. I'm saying for all the actuals, convert this into USD for this period. So if I have to change, I can click add. I can change any category. All right, I'm good with this. Click next. It conforms. So on what data region you are going to perform currency conversion. So it gives option to run, schedule, run, and schedule. I'm going to click on run right now so that it runs the currency conversion. Once the currency conversion runs, then you can see the status. So how do we see the status? You can go to currency conversion status to the data manager. You go to data manager. Under the view status, you can see there is a currency conversion business data manager package. So here you could see there is a success or failure, how many submitted. So here I can see what happened to the status. So this has been successfully completed. So since this step is completed, I'm just going to mark the step as completed so that it's part of the business process. Click complete. So once we complete, so far we completed this step. So now I'm going for data validation. So before I go ahead and create any planning process, any planning templates or anything, I want to make sure I have a data quality system in place. So this is going to do a balanced validation. Click on validate data. So this is going to bring the controls and where I could validate this. So what it's trying to do, it's trying to ask the context. What period I'm trying to validate. I'm going to validate. This is for all the 12 months. I'm just going to take a particular period and show you how the data has been validated. So if you notice here, so these are all different entities. And this is basically the data set I'm trying to validate. Okay. So for this entity, I'm going to perform data validation, which is nothing but, in this case, balanced validation. Select what level you want to run. I want to run at a group level. Once I've done this group level, so I'm just going to click on run controls. When I click on run controls, it's going to confirm. So what data region you are going to perform the validation. This is the data region. Click OK. So now what it is going to do, it's going to perform basically a balanced validation. Now the balanced validation, it's failing. You see this one, it fails. How do we see where it failed, why it failed? So click on open control results. When you click on open control results, so this is going to show you where it failed and why it has failed. For this particular entity, the balance is imbalanced. It's not balancing. You see there is a $10 difference. Okay. Entity Australia, the balance is not balancing. So now I need to go ahead and fix this one. How do I fix? I'm going to use journals. Through journals, I'm going to fix this one. So mark this step as complete. I'm going to complete this step. Since it's part of my workflow, I have to mark it as a complete. I completed this step. The next, I'm going to journal postings. Click on journal postings. When I go to journal postings, it's going to ask me to choose the context to make sure I have an existing journal or not. So this is conforms. It says budget. It's not really budget. I want an actual. Okay. I want journal to be posted against an actual. Which period? This is the period. In what currency? In local currency. And what intercompany? It's not intercompany. What scenario? This is basically the data source that I want to use. It's for input. And this is what product I'm doing. If it's doing at the product level, you could select the product level. Okay. So in my case, in our case, it's a CPG industry. We're selecting a specific product. So I'm just trying to locate my product and then use that product. So this is the product we have in the system I'm going to go ahead, and this is for CPG, and I'm going to select one of the product that I'm going to use, this my product. So overall, I set what I need to create a journals. So I'm creating my journals for actuals in the month of January in local currency, and it is non-intercompany, and it's treated as user manual input, and this is for this product. All right. So now what I have to do, I have to click on new. I'm going to create a new journal entry. So this is going to allow me to post a journal to fix the $10 difference. I'm just going to say this is where entity Australia. Okay. I'm going to focus entity Australia. Okay. For entity Australia. So we are posting a manual journal posting. Okay. Journal posting. This is journal posting for entity Australia on 02 on 02/07/2014. So this is the other dimension I need to select. This is an account dimension. I'm posting against total assets, and it's a current asset. It's a cash. So I'm posting against this account. And what flow? This is not a flow. I'm just going to keep no activity. And this is an entity. Which entity I'm posting? I'm posting for Australia, entity Australia. So if you want, it's a debit posting or a credit posting, it's a debit posting. So once I'm done, if I want to write any remark, I can write remark. This is my notes, okay? My notes. So if I want to write any notes, I can write any notes. This is for journal description. So once you've done this one, you can save the journal, click on save. So now what it's doing, it's saving the journals. So once it's saved, then you can go ahead and post the journal. Click on post. Now the journal is confirmed whether you want to post. Yes, I want to post. Now I posted the journal. So what the journal is going to do, it's going to basically fix the discrepancy in the balance sheet. So we had a discrepancy. The discrepancy was the balance sheet for Australia is out of balance. Now I'm trying to fix this one. So now the journal has been posted. I'm just going to go ahead and verify the journal postings. So I'm completing the journal posting. I'm going to do a revalidation of data. So click on revalidate data. When you click revalidate data, it's going to ask you the period and the entity, all those informations. It's for actual, and it is for the month of January 2011. So this is what it is. So now you can see your controls. Select controls, run controls. So now what it is going to do, it's going to revalidate the balance sheet to make sure the balance sheet is in balance after the journal posting. Click OK. So now it's going to run the balance sheet validation. Yes, the balance sheet is now balancing. How could I see? It's everything passed. You can select the group level, go to open controls. When you go to open controls, you can see everything is in balance. There's nothing out of balance. Okay, so the balances are in balance. There's nothing out of balance. It's been posted properly. So what we have done, we were able to validate the data. Now we are going to the next step. So we done currency conversion. We validate the data. We found discrepancy. We posted journal. We fixed it. We revalidated. Everything looks good. I'm going to now do a basic scenario creation. I'm going to create my scenarios. So that means, so this is where I'm going to create a baseline for my planning. So this is where I'm going to create my baseline for planning. So click on create planning scenario, baseline scenario. So what it's going to do, it's going to take your actual and copy them as a planned baseline. So it is asking me, yes, I want to copy the records. Yes, I want to copy them. Okay, yes, yes. So now it's going to confirm, okay, what actually I'm trying to do. I'm trying to copy actuals into plan. And for this period, for all the entity. So this is basically confirms whether I want to run, schedule, run and schedule. I want to run right away, click finish. So what it's doing right now, it is taking the actuals and copy them as a plan data, and that's being used as a baseline for planning purpose. So now how do we see the outcome? Go to data manager. Under the data manager, you can see view status. Under here, you see the copy function. So this is copied. what it copied this many number of records, okay, from the actual into plan. So now my plan baseline is ready. So now I can start the plan. So that means I need to inform the actual planner the plan data has been ready for the planning purpose. How do we do? So that is what work status does. So we use work status function to inform the user that the plan is ready for them to continue. So click on work status. When you click on work status, it's going to let you choose what entity, what period, all of those information. So I'm going to send entity as an example. I'm going to focus Australia. So Australia is ready for planning, select Australia. All right. And what data is ready for plan? So I'm just going to choose this is the plan data. Okay. So this is the plan data which is ready for this. All right. What period is this? This is for January of 2011. And what is the status? Now the status is, okay, it is submitted. Okay, this is ready for plan. So I'm submitting this one for plan. So the work status has been set for plan. So what I'm trying to say, this particular work status is been set up for the subsequent user to get the plan started. So just to summarize what we have done, we were able to basically adjust the exchange rate if there is a need to adjust the exchange rate. If it is not, we can skip this option. The next step is currency conversion. If data are coming in local currency, how do we convert them into reporting currency? Once after done the currency conversion, then I'm doing automatic data validation. Example, balance sheet validation, trial balance validation. Once I'm done, if there is any discrepancy, then I'm using journal to post this issues. Then I'm doing revalidation. If everything is done, if data is looking good, then I'm going for creating scenario baseline. Once after creating scenario baseline, the plan is ready, plan data is ready for the next level to start the plan. How am I going to communicate? That's been communicated by using the work status function, submit the data to the planner so that the planner can plan it. So far, we completed data collection, we completed data preparation. Now we are going for scenario analysis. We have various different scenarios to be analyzed. So one of them is the revenue planning. This is my revenue template. I'm opening my revenue template. When I open the revenue template, it's going to let me perform various revenue scenarios in the planning process. So we are going to take a look at one by one, what are the various revenue scenarios we can plan for. It's opening the input template. Now I'm going to adjust the input template, make more readable. So maximize this and go to EPM and close this guy. So what you're looking at, this is your input template which is used for revenue. Do a refresh to make sure correct you have right data in place. So this is basically the input template which has all the drivers which is required to plan for it. So for example, what is my goal? My goal is want to increase my external sales. To increase my external sales, one of the contract I'm going to do is I'm going to increase my contract. This is one of the drivers. I'm going to change the contract from 600,000 to 900,000. If I'm going to change this contract from 600,000 to 900,000, I want to know what is the impact on my external sales. So let me go ahead and save the scenario. I'm saving the scenario. If I'm going to save the scenario, so this will have an impact in terms of what is the external sales that's going to be calculated. So if you notice here, it saved this one. Now do a refresh. When you do refresh, this particular external sales went from 200,000 to 300,000. Okay? So you could see this one. So the external sales went this much. So this went on this much. So now what I have done, I was able to create one different scenario. The second scenario I'm going to do, so what is the impact if I'm going to increase average revenue per unit? So if I'm going to increase average revenue per unit, what is that? How does it going to impact in terms of my external sales? Or if I'm going to increase average sales order, average units per sales order, the average units per sales order right now is 2. So if I'm going to increase this 2 to 3, okay. So I'm going to increase from 2 to 3. What is the impact in terms of my external sales? So these are the different planning scenario I can do. I'm going to go ahead and save this one. When I save this one, you could see in the corresponding month, there is an increase in the external sales. Okay, so this increase is basically based on what drivers we chose. In this case, I chose average unit per sales order. So when you do refresh, you will get to see what is the increase in this one. You can also do trend analysis. You can also do spread. You can also do weighted average. Okay, these are the different things. So for example, I'm going to take trend analysis. All right, what is my average revenue per unit? This is my average revenue per unit. All right, I want to increase this average revenue per unit 5%. If I'm going to increase average revenue by 5%, what is the impact? So the impact is going to be, I want to see in these 3 months. I want to increase the average revenue 5% based on this actual to Feb, to March, April, and May. When I hit OK, it's going to confirm and change this guy. So now we go ahead and save this one. When I save this one, behind the scene, it calculates your external sales, and that external sales is be one of the scenario you are creating. So this is basically trend analysis. You could see the external sales went up. So these are the different scenarios you could create. You could create various different scenarios. So this is completely built for on HANA. All the calculation that has been taken place, it's not written in the logic, script logic, or it's not written in Excel formula. So these are all calculated on HANA as an in-memory calculation. So we have completed a revenue scenario. I'm going to go ahead and close this one. So there could be many different scenarios we can cover, but just wanted to show you how we could use HANA functions to perform these kind of complex calculation in memory. So I'm going to mark this as a complete. So there are other scenarios. I'm not going to cover everything. I'm going to mark this complete. I'm going to go to the rolling forecast, which might be very helpful to you to understand. So these are the different scenarios we can cover, and it's been already pre-configured. So I'm going to mark these are all completed. So what I have done, I am not going for expense. I'm not going for assets, liability, cash flow. So I'm not planning for any of those scenarios. I'm going to mark those planning scenarios are completed. Now I'm going for rolling forecast. How does my rolling forecast going to look like? So how can I do 6-month rolling forecast using HANA in-memory calculation? So this is also behind the scene works on HANA side. So we're going to call, how do you call HANA programs? How do you interface with HANA programs? So that's what you get to see here. So what it's going to do, it's going to perform 6-month rolling forecast. It's opening the rolling forecast input template. So go to EPM, minimize to make sure this is more readable. So this is 1 second. It's right now. I'm just going to maximize this. Go to EPM. So now this is my 6-month rolling forecast. I can do rolling forecast at an account level. I can do rolling forecast at a product level. So this is more of a revenue. This is more of a volume. So it's based on how we want to set up. So this is basically the rolling forecast for the next 6 months and for the product level. Let's do one at a time. I'm going to focus on rolling forecast for the product, the revenue. So these are all forecasts that have been already done. I'm going to delete this. Go ahead and save this one. So what I did, I deleted all the forecasts that has been already done. I'm going to basically reforecast one more time. So this gives a method formula. That's fine. Ignore, do a refresh. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically call a HANA backend process, which is going to perform this calculation and then bring back the forecast data. So this is basically the revenue forecast. I'm just going to run a data manager package, which in turn calls HANA program. So I'm just going to go ahead, run this guy, click on run, and this is going to allow me to do 6-month rolling forecast and click run. It's going to ask you the context. So which entity, what level you're running, all of those information. Once you give the context, it's going to confirm, it's going to run this rolling forecast. So now, how do I see the status? Click view status. You can see this one, it's still running. It is still running actually. Click details. So this is still running. So once it's done, then you could see. so it's still running. Once this run, then we can go back and look at the rolling forecast, what has been calculated. 1 second, it's still running. It says it's ran successfully. So now go ahead and look at it. So these are all the formula that has been done. It's been calculated. So now I'm just going to go back and do a refresh. When you do a refresh, you should be able to populate the forecast values here. Okay, so this is the forecast for the 6 month. Okay, so based on the actuals, it's calculated March, April, May, June, and July. So these are the 6 months. So the forecast has been calculated. This is 6 month rolling forecast. It's been done. So this is for the revenue. Now I want to do it for the volume. I want to do it for the volume level. I'm just going to delete all my forecasts. Do a refresh to make sure you have the right data sets. All right. So now I'm going to delete this one. I'm going to delete this one. And I'm going to reforecast one more time. All right. So this forecast is based on the actuals. So I deleted all the forecasts. Now go ahead and save this one. So this is the forecast value. Now it's set to 0. There's no forecast data. And now refresh. Everything is refreshed. Now I'm going to run my data manager package, which in turn calls a HANA in-memory calculation that's going to perform the rolling forecast. Run this rolling forecast. It's going to be at the volume level. I'm just going to run this one. It confirms what I want to run. Click refresh. Now view status. You will get to see what's happening. Now it's still running here. Click details. So it's a package that's still running. So wait and see. It is successfully run. So once it's run, now go back and do a refresh. Once you refresh, you can get to see whether the rolling forecast at the product level, at the volume level, it's been done. So this is what it is. So if you notice here, so this is the rolling forecast that has been done for the month of Feb, month of March, April, May, June, July. So it is purely based on actuals. So what we looked at rolling forecast. I'm going to complete this task and I mark as a complete. So we have done the rolling forecast. The next is what? SKU level planning. How do we plan for a SKU level? So this is, again, it uses HANA in-memory calculation to do top-down allocation. So based on HANA in-memory calculation, a lot of logics are written, and those logics are basically performs the top-down allocation. So let me set the screen so that we could see. So I'm just going to EPM and then minimize this guy. So this is basically the actual, and this is the target, and this is the plan data. Okay, it's a top-down allocation. Do a refresh to make sure you have every actuals. Correct? You can enter actuals as needed. So these are the actuals. I have actuals for the month of Jan, month of March, month of July. Okay. So now if you see here, there are various hierarchy built in. So this is product family, this is product group, this is the actual product. So you can have multiple different hierarchy built in here. So you can allocate at various levels. So same here, you can see there is the product family, product group, product, and then SKU level. These are all SKUs. Okay, so you have various level of product is been used here. You have the product family, you have the product group, you have the product, then they have SKUs. There are various levels used. This is an actual, this is a target. Now this is a plan data. Do a refresh and make sure nothing is here. So there are some plan data here. Let me go ahead and delete this one so that we can do a top-down distribution from various levels. Okay, a top-down distribution at various levels. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete this one. So let me delete this one. So this is basically the plan distribution based on the level that I set as a target. Okay. So 1 second. Just a second. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete the plan data. All right. The plan data has been deleted. 1 second. So I'm going to delete the plan data. This is my plan data. I'm going to delete all of those. And then do a redistribution based on my target. So once I delete, then I can do the redistribution. So these are all my plan data. And hit delete. So save the data. I deleted all the plan data. Now refresh. So once I refresh, I have no plan data. This is my actuals. You can look at the actuals. I refresh, you can see this actuals. Actuals for Jan, March, and July. And this is my target. So this is basically, I'm going to set the target, correct? My target in this case, it's going to be, I'm going to set for every month. So I'm going to set for January, 100,000. This is 200,000. And this is 300,000, 400,000. So you can set your target, whatever level you want, okay? So based on that, the distribution is going to be, you can set at various levels. It's not just only at this level you have to set, you can set at various levels. I'm setting at the top level. So this is a target at the top level. Now I'm going to do save. Once after save this one, what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically refresh and see whether it's been saved. So I have my actual, now I have my target. Now I want to do a distribution. Go to plan. We have data manager package, run package, and this will allow you to do the distribution. Internally, this calls SAP HANA in-memory calculation. It performs in-memory calculation. Click run. Now it is asking you what level you wanted to set the target. I'm setting at the top level. Click next. Click finish. Go to view status. This is still running. You can see what is happening here. When you do refresh, you will get to see them. It's successful. So now go back to your plan. This is your plan data. Do a refresh. Go to EPM. Do a refresh. Now you can see the distribution, how it took place. So this is basically the top level and then how it's been allocated. So the important point to understand, on the data manager package, you have an option to choose what level you want to set the target. The target could be set at a various level. Level 1, the product level, product family, product group, product, and a SKU level. So it gives more flexibility. You can set your target and run the allocation. So this is very flexible. So what we looked at, how could we use BPC to do SKU level planning? I'm taking my actual, I'm taking my target, I'm doing my distribution. This is my distribution. This is absolutely done on HANA in-memory calculation. So this is one of the things we offer as out-of-the-box function. We don't need to build anything. It's readily deployable. So what we have done SKU level planning. That's been completed. I'm not going to go to my P&L planning. I'm going to complete this one. The next is what? I'm done with my planning. I'm sending my planning for review. Click the work status. Now, what entity I planned for? I planned for Australia. I'm going to go ahead and select entity as Australia. That's the entity I'm going to choose. Select entity as Australia. Once you select entity, then the next step is going to ask you what period that you are going to do. So this is for plan data. This is not an actual. This is for plan data. Select plan. Once I select plan, it's going to ask you for which period. You can set any period you like, but I'm going to set to the period I have been working on, Jan of 2001. It's already in the submitted state, as you can see. Now I'm going to see reviewed. Okay, I'm going to apply this to reviewed. So this is basically the work status has been set to reviewed. Click complete. So what I have done, I am completing my scenario analysis. So in scenario analysis, we have revenue scenario, cost scenario. We can plan for asset and liabilities, cash flow. Then we have rolling forecast. We have SKU level planning, P&L planning. Then finally, we have work status process, which is going to let you review and approve. So overall, we completed 3 steps of the planning cycle. We completed data collection, we completed data preparation, we completed scenario analysis. The next one was cost allocation. What is cost allocation supposed to do? So now I want to allocate funds. Okay, how do we allocate cost allocation? So this is also very much be done based on HANA in-memory calculation. So this is uses HANA in-memory calculation to perform the cost allocation. So we build a flexible cost allocation model where we can allocate cost at a various levels. So you can allocate at the top level or any level you could like, you can allocate the cost. I'm just going to open the cost allocation model. 1 second, BPM. I'm going to go ahead, expand this and minimize it. So this is the cost allocation model here. So what we have, so you have, this is a, this is our actuals and this is our budget. Okay, this is an actual, this is our budget. And these are the, like, the target what you want to allocate. Okay. So you can set target at any level. So it could be admin expense, travel expense, training expense, whatever expense you want, you can allocate this one. So I'm just going to basically delete this guy. Okay, I'm going to delete this one. So now I'm going to set my target. Okay, set my target. This is deleted. So I'm going to set my target. This is 100,000, and this is 200,000, and this is 300,000. Okay, so I'm just going to put some random numbers. Okay, so all right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save. It will automatically get allocated. So I'm going to go ahead and save this one. So this is done an in-memory HANA in-memory calculation. Based on this actual, it's going to allocate the budget and based on what you have given. Now do a refresh. When you do refresh, you should be able to see the cost has been allocated here. So how did we allocate it? It uses the actuals and it uses the target what you want to allocate, the amount to be allocated. So it can go any level. It could be an entity level, or it could be region level, or it could be group level. You can allocate at various levels. So this is our cost allocation. So this cost allocation also done completely on SAP HANA in-memory calculation. It's written on the back end. So this part is completed. So overall, what we have done, we completed 4 steps. What are the 4 steps we completed? Data collection, data preparation, scenario analysis, cost allocation. The last one is the variance analysis. How do we see the variance? How much you plan, what's the actual, what's the variance, correct? Since we plan only for revenue, I'm going to take a look at only the revenue. Collect revenue. All right, I'm going to go ahead and click on revenue analysis. So I didn't plan for many revenue line items. I just planned only for external sales. So you can see a variance to the external sales. So now maximize this, go to EPM. So I'm going to EPM and action panel. So now you could see here the variance only for the first line item, which is the external sales. So click on external sales, you will see like what's the variance. So this is an actual, this is a plan, this is a variance. And now you could see like in the graphical view also how the variance to external sales is looking. The other line item we didn't plan for. There are many different scenarios we could plan. When you plan, you could see the plan and actual variance. Okay? So this is something that like we just copied from the plan to an actual. We copied from the actual to plan, but we didn't plan for any scenarios. If you plan for different scenarios, you will see we just plan only for external sales. You could plan for cost of goods sold, gross profit, operating income. All of those will have its own variance. Right now, it doesn't have variance. That's because we didn't plan for the scenario. So overall, what we are able to see, so we are able to see like different scenarios and then the variance of that scenarios. So I'm completing this. I'm going back. So what we have done so far, we were able to see various planning scenarios and the variance associated. Complete this one. I'm not going to look at the expense variance since I was not planned. I'm going to not skip this one. Complete this portion. Similarly, you can do this one. I'm going to complete this. 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 I'm going to complete this one. So now we've done everything. We're going to do a work status approval. So down the work status, I looked at my variance, how much the actual, what is the plan, and what's the variance. Now click on work status. So this work status is going to mark as approved. So I'm going to select entity. Which entity I'm reviewing it? It's for entity Australia. All right. And what category? This is going to be the actual. Sorry, this is going to be the plan. This is going to be the plan. All right. Now, what period it's going to be? It's going to be Jan of 2011. This is the period. Now, what is the status? It says already reviewed. Now I'm going to approve. So this is going to be approved. Click apply. I'm going to approve it. So complete this one. So what we have done, we were able to complete the end-to-end planning process, starting from data collection all the way to variance analysis. We complete everything. So this is what we call our driver-based planning, budgeting, forecasting solution.